Hey there, my name's Curtis Lucas and you're watching Empire Building. I just wanted to do this video because I've been getting a whole lot of questions and I forgot to mention Argo Blockchain during my last quick Bitcoin miner update. And to be honest, I haven't been following Argo that closely over the last few months. I know that there've been some developments and they're finally begun work on the Texas facility, and they've got some more miners coming in and actively being deployed, and they have been growing that hash rate. They've also finally, along with the rest of the smaller Bitcoin miners, got their listing on the NASDAQ. And for them, they did it through an IPO, which I found surprising. I didn't expect that. So they did have the added benefit of raising capital for that. But that has been at the expense of the existing shareholders who have not only seen their shares, their ownership get diluted, they also had to deal with the fact that those shares were sold at a discounted rate through the IPO. And that's kind of like rubbing salt in the wound. But I do want to point a few things out here because, I mean, while these interim periods, it can be incredibly frustrating. And to be honest, investing in these Bitcoin mining stocks can sometimes feel like it's counterproductive. You see, often they drop while Bitcoin goes up, and this stock makes that painfully clear. The IPO occurred on September 23rd, which was this candlestick right here. So if you look to the day prior to the IPO, the shares are currently down 30% from where they were trading at just the day before. So needless to say, yeah, it's a pretty disappointing outcome for an event that so many people were looking forward to. So I understand the outrage and anger. These kinds of things it feels somewhat impossible to predict how they're going to play out. But a lot of that's due to the fact that, yeah, those shares were issued at a substantial discount. If you actually go and look at the ticker symbol on the NASDAQ, that was at $15 that those shares were issued. This is where the stock price opened at, and it's currently trading above that. So yeah, anyone that entered this position on the day of the IPO through the NASDAQ listing, then you're actually in profit. It just sucks for anyone that had been holding this long term. So yeah, this sucks. There's no way to sugarcoat this, and I sympathize everyone that's been through this, but you are not alone. I mean, just about any stock out there has had its fair share of bad hands. So for that perspective, let's have a look at just a couple other examples. Riot Blockchain has also been undergoing a capital raise by selling shares at the market, which has seen its stock just bleed out. And its stock back in March or end of February, it had soared to nearly $80 a share. It's currently trading at $25. It's down a total of, 67%. Despite Bitcoin being back at $55,000, this stock is still near the lows that we found when Bitcoin had dropped to $30,000. And this is one of the big two. Its hash rate and HODL is second only to really Mara, or HUT if you count the HODL, but they've got an incredible hash rate. But it just happens to be in the midst of this capital raise, which sucks for long-term holders. If you have a look at HUT, it's doing extremely well right now. This one's only 20% away from its record highs, which it only spent really one day traveling, wicked up to those heights. Its current level right now is at the same high that it closed at on its highest day. So I don't even know how much you count this wick. It spent minutes at these prices. But needless to say, like overall, it still suffered an overall drop of 75%. There's no one who's invested in these companies during this entire phase that hasn't experienced incredible pain and, let's face it, depression. It sucks, and there's no one that doesn't wish they hadn't done it differently, myself included. Having said that, I don't want to diminish the importance of evaluating the overall performance of these individual companies, because it is a competition. They're all vying to get that precious hash rate to acquire as much Bitcoin as they can, as quickly as they can, especially when we appear to be entering the climax of this bull run. If you're like me, it seems to indicate, all signs seem to point to, the next 3 to 6 months is going to be insane. Now, I don't want to get too ahead of myself or get too excited. I'm trying to keep my wits about me here. But yeah, the ones that will perform the best are the ones that have positioned themselves the best leading up to this. So when you're comparing them, I would recommend that you make sure that you group them amongst one another in terms of their current installed hash rate and their current HODL. That's the best you can do. So I'm going to move me over to this side of the chart here. But over here, we can see that HUT has a market capitalization at just around $1.5 billion. And we know that they have the second largest HODL position, second only to Mara. But its installed hash rate is approximately the same or very close to what we currently have from Argo. And same with Bitfarm. So these are all somewhat comparable, except for, like I mentioned, the hash rate, or the HODL. But Bitfarm and Argo are very close to one another. Bitfarm has currently a more aggressive build-out schedule. It's currently public information in 2022 than Argo does. But again, based on the current share of the Bitcoin hash rate, they're about the same. Bitfarm is still down 48% from its all-time highs, with a market capitalization of $861 million. But Argo Blockchain has an even lower market capitalization at just over $500 million. And the good news is their capital raise is now done. They may have ripped the band-aid off on that one by selling it all at once and at a discounted rate, but had they chose to do it through a at-the-market offering, I can't say it would have been any less painful. So hard to say whether or not ripping the band-aid off was the better deal. But if you want to get those investors to shell out that money in an IPO, you got to give them the price that they want. That's unfortunately the way this works. So yeah, unfortunately, the older investors end up holding the bag. But that was going to happen no matter how you look at it. The fact is, these companies, if they want to increase their size, they have to raise that money. They either have to do that by going to institutional investors and giving them a discount, assuming they can find enough of that money, enough of that capital, or they have to sell it at the market, which puts prolonged pressure on these stocks and keeps them from rising when others do. This is why, yeah, investing in Bitcoin is ironically a whole lot less stressful. But I still do believe that once these things start to run, they can move a whole lot faster than Bitcoin does. And we have seen that time and time and time again. It's just predicting it and anticipating these movements, one versus the other, it's going to give you a brain aneurysm just attempting it. So that's my 2 cents on the issue. Like I said, this wasn't really about looking at any technicals or some unknown information. I don't know anything more than anybody else does. And if you've been invested in this company long term, you know more than I do. But when it comes to perspective, I know sometimes you guys value my viewpoints on that. So that's the way I see it. If nothing else, consider it a little bit of a pep talk. This stock's time will come. This company's time in the sun will come again. Sooner or later, every dog gets its day. And let's face it, this stock has been a dog. There's been a few of them just like it. And all of them will get their chance. That is assuming Bitcoin does what we all anticipate it's about to do. That's why we're here in the first place. But one of the things that I'd like to impose on people is that if you want to invest in this technology, it's not a bad idea to get some exposure directly in the underlying asset, Bitcoin in this case. As many of you probably have noticed, I've done a lot of videos lately on Ethereum, and I'm continuing to do that as we speak. But these are some of the things that maybe you might want to definitely take a look at. There's less counterparty risk involved because you don't have to worry about the execution factor. You don't have to anticipate when suddenly one of these companies are going to start raising capital. But when those things do happen, it does present an opportunity, as we now have. In the end, the best thing you can do is the best you can do. Just develop your own thesis, make your own investment decisions, and try your best not to over leverage yourself in any given circumstance. That is probably the biggest mistake anyone can make, but as long as you've got the patience, I believe things in the end will work out just fine. That's all for this one. Now let's get back to empire building.